Hi everyone. So we're not sure what's going to happen with your teaching over the next couple of weeks or so up to Easter, but chances are you might not have any face-to-face teaching time. So what we're trialing is these recorded lessons where during a cover lesson you can sit and watch this. I'll talk through the slides, I'll talk through the tasks that you'd be doing, and there's a wee worksheet that will go with it. It'll either get put on the board for you or you might have paper copies in front of you. But you'll do those tasks either in your jotters or on a piece of paper after watching me go through these slides, okay? What's going to happen after Easter, we're not entirely sure. We'll just need to see what happens with that. So we'll give this a shot, see how it goes. If it works well, then we'll keep doing this up till Easter and go from there, okay? So we've already started looking at the Scottish Dietary Goals, okay? So we're just going to carry on with that this week. So learning intentions, how to achieve the Scottish Dietary Goals, and this week you're looking at fibre. So your success criteria should be able to identify the goal for fibre intake, you can describe the benefit to health, and you can identify how to adapt a recipe to meet that goal. Okay. So for your lesson starter task, guys, basically I've put these on, don't have to do them in order. Realistically, it's probably better if we just go through the slides and then this is on your worksheet, so just do the worksheet at the end after we've gone through the slides. So lesson starter is adapting a recipe. So your last lesson on home learning should have been on fruit and vegetables. You should have all looked into that, but even if you haven't, it's not the most difficult one. Okay, but the idea for this task is you've got to make 2 changes to the recipe to help increase the amount of fruit and vegetable intake. So you've got a chicken fajita recipe here, you've got all the ingredients, and remember when you change a recipe, guys, you can either add ingredients or increase the quantity. You can reduce or remove ingredients, or you can swap ingredients. Okay, so for that first task on your worksheet, all you're going to do is write 2 changes. Just make sure you're clear what changes you've made. So if you're adding something, make sure you say add whatever you're adding. If you're reducing or removing, what are you reducing or removing? If you're swapping, please remember to write swap the original ingredient name for whatever the new ingredient name is. Okay, so 2 changes to that recipe for more fruit and vegetables. That one should be simple enough, guys. Okay. This bit here, I've just put this on just to remind you again of the 8 dietary goals. So for anybody that hasn't been using the home learning, guys, I would recommend going back over it. It's on Teams still, it should all still be there for you to look back, but these are the Scottish dietary goals. Okay, so increase fruit and vegetables, increase oily fish, increase fibre, and then for your reduces, you've got reduce red meat, reduce saturated fat, reduce salt, reduce sugar, and reduce calories. Okay. So fibre, we now know that we need to increase our fibre intake, but how much do we actually need to increase it to? So Scottish Dietary Goals state we need to consume so many grams per day of fibre. Now just remember, fibre isn't a specific piece of food. Fruit and vegetables, 5 portions, it's easy enough because you go, there's an apple, that's 1 portion. However, fibre, remember, it's part of the food, okay? So it's not just 30 grams of this food is going to have 30 grams of fibre, okay? But that is our target, all right? Per day, you should have 30 grams of fibre per day. And if you're ever trying to find out the fibre intake or the fibre content of something, guys, just look at the nutritional table on the back page of the packaging, because that will have the fibre content on there, okay? So 30 grams per day of fibre is what we want. If we're looking at in relation to our Eat Well guide, guys, we know that fibre comes from mainly starchy carbohydrates, but we also get it from fruit and vegetables. So if we're looking at that in terms of our starchy carbohydrates, we know that 1/3 of our diet needs to be starchy carbohydrates. So within that 1/3 of our diet, we should be able to get 30 grams of fibre per day. Okay. So although fibre is not technically a nutrient, okay, it's not one of our 5 main nutrients that you were looking at, it is essential to a healthy diet. So we've already said fruit and vegetables can be a good source of fibre, and a good way to get even more fibre from those is to keep the skin on. So if you have, for example, an apple, keep the skin on it. That gives you even more fibre because there's more fibre in the skin and just under the skin of the fruit and vegetable. Okay. However, the best place that we can get our fibre from is something called whole grain or wholemeal foods, and you've probably heard of those guys. A lot of people tend to just say brown whatever it is, so brown bread, brown pasta, but the proper term is whole grain and wholemeal foods. So these are even better sources of fibre as they have a higher fibre content. And just a wee note guys, what fibre actually is. Fibre is a plant material that the body cannot digest, so your body doesn't actually digest fibre. But what that means is it's like a filler. It goes into your digestive system and it helps push everything through your digestive system. So that will help prevent things like constipation, etc. Okay. So examples of whole grain foods and wholemeal foods. You'll know some of these already, okay? So you've got wholemeal pasta, whole grain rice, oatmeal or oats, wholemeal bread, and wholemeal flour. So wholemeal pasta is just made using wholemeal flour, okay, to get the fibre into it. Oats are just naturally good fibrous foods. Wholemeal bread, again, is made using wholemeal flour, and wholemeal flour, you can use it in other recipes. It doesn't have to just be bread or pasta. You can use that in some of the recipes that we make. The only issue with wholemeal flour, if you've ever seen it sieved, guys, which you might remember from last year, you get the little bits of fibre in the sieve, and that can sometimes affect the texture or the appearance of something like a cake, for example. But there's plenty of recipes that you can switch plain flour for wholemeal flour. And remember with your wholemeal bread as well, if you're not 100% keen on wholemeal bread, you can go for the 50-50 loaves, which have 50% plain and 50% wholemeal bread, flour. That way you're at least getting some of the fibre. So slight different one there though is whole grain rice. So you can see the plain rice, you can see the whole grain rice. Now what that is, it's slightly different. You can see how the other ones are called wholemeal. Rice is called whole grain though because it's the actual grain of the rice. So whole grain rice or rice, it starts with this kind of hard outer casing, and that's the fibre. And then your normal rice, what they do is they treat it to get that casing off, so you lose the fibre when you go into that rice, okay? So that's your difference between whole grain rice and plain. It's the actual fibrous casing on the outside of the rice, okay? So why do we actually need fibre? All right, so we need to make sure we prevent constipation. So fibre, we've already said, you don't digest it. It helps to keep the digestive system moving, and this helps prevent constipation. It's also been linked in research to help prevent bowel disease because you keep the digestive system moving properly, so it can help prevent bowel cancer. And it's also quite filling, so whole grain and wholemeal starchy foods are one of the better ones to keep you full. So they'll keep you feeling full for longer, which will then help prevent you from snacking on fatty foods, which therefore means it's going to help prevent obesity and heart disease. Okay, so if we're specifically looking at the dietary diseases, fibre helps to prevent constipation and bowel cancer and bowel disease, and the fact that it's filling helps to prevent obesity and heart disease. Okay, so make sure if you're talking about that in any explanations, guys, you're clear on that. If it helps with obesity and heart disease, it's because it's filling, which helps to stop you snacking on fatty foods. You need to mention that. It's not a direct link between the fibre and the condition, it's the fact that you're not having the fatty foods. Okay. Last bit there, guys, adapting recipes. Nice and simple. How can we adapt our recipes to get more fibre? Nice simple one, just choose whole grain or wholemeal versions of ingredients. So wholemeal pasta, whole grain rice are examples. And add fruit and vegetables to your recipes. Okay, just add more fruit and vegetables because again you're getting fibre from those. Okay, so the next part are your questions, and again these are on your worksheet. Make sure that you're looking at increased fibre. So how many grams of fibre should we eat per day? What type of food is has higher fibre content? So we just mentioned that earlier. There's something specific food-wise that is higher in fibre content. This is the type of question you'd probably be asked moving forward. That's the type of question you'd be asked next year in exams. So identify one reason why you should increase fibre intake and explain the benefit to health. So remember you saying, why is it good? Why do we need fibre? But what impact does it have on your health? Okay, so think about that slide a couple of slides back when you're talking about the fibre and the conditions, etc. Okay, last one on this slide. You've also got identify a suitable alternative to each of the following ingredients to increase your fibre intake. So you've got flour, rice and spaghetti, so give me an alternative that has even more fibre in it. And the last question is another adapt the recipe, that this time you're looking at fibre. So you've got a chicken fajita recipe again. You need to look at this fajita recipe and you need to tell me 2 ways that you're going to change that recipe to increase the fibre intake. Okay, so this last bit here, it's a wee home task. It take you 5 minutes just to do. I will put these slides on Teams pages, guys, so you can go back through them. You can use that for the links. You can also make sure that you have the recipe adaptation, the recipe there if you want to attempt the recipe, okay? But it's most important that you get that worksheet done, okay? So this wee task here, it's one that you can do at home. There's a page called Food Fact of Life, a really good website, and they've got a wee task called the Interactive Fibre Lineup. Now all that is you've got different foods and you have to arrange them in the highest to lowest per 100 gram of fibre. Okay, so which has the highest amount of fibre, which has the next highest, etc. And you can see from the page, it'll time you, it'll tell you how many moves you've done for moving it around. You can then click check, it'll tell you if you're right or wrong, if you need to make any changes, and then at the end, once you're happy and you've got it all correct, you can show the solution, okay? So have a wee go at that as well when you get home. I've also put the extension task on, guys, if anybody gets a chance. Like we said, you won't be able to cook if you've not got the face-to-face learning, okay? But what we've done is we've put the recipes up so that you have access to them if you want to do them at home. So in this case, we've got a vegetable stir fry, which actually works quite well to combine increased fruit and vegetables and increased fibre. So as we've done before, obviously if you do make them, please put a wee picture up, we'd love to see it. But we've also put your kitchen routine, what you're actually needing to learn, okay? So we've already described the health benefits of fibre, but you're mainly looking at safe use of the hob and accurately cutting your vegetables into something called matchsticks, okay? I've got 2 slides here for top chef tips, okay? So have a wee read through those when you get a chance, guys, if you're going to make them. And then we've got a recap of your bridge and claw grip for your knife safety, recap of your hob safety, and then we've got a few videos. I won't play any of them just now, guys, because again, if you do move on to it, then you can move on to that and watch them. So you've got cutting matchsticks for a pepper, cutting matchsticks for a carrot, slicing onions, stir frying, and then we've got the difference between your boiling and simmering for your rice and how to drain the rice safely, okay? So there's plenty there for you to do. Obviously, if you're in the lesson just now, then guys, you need to work through the worksheet, answer the questions. You need to maintain your social distance, social distancing 2 meters, guys. As long as the teacher's happy with you to do so, I'm quite happy for you to discuss it with each other to try and get the answers right. But make sure you're maintaining that distance and make sure you've got the go-ahead of the teacher that is covering for you. If you're not doing it in class, guys, if you're doing it at home, then you just work through the worksheet and submit the worksheet on Teams. And like I said, you've got the wee home task if you want to do it, and we've got the cooking if you're able to do it as well. Just make sure you've got your parents' permission and be very careful if you're doing any of the safety and hygiene with that, okay? As always, guys, I'll be available on Teams. If you have any questions, you can send me an email, send a message on Teams. Depending what happens with different groups in at different times, I'll be working from home, so I'll be able to do drop-in sessions potentially if we want them. So if anybody is interested in drop-in sessions, just let me know and we can arrange one when people aren't in their classes, okay? But have a go at the task sheet just now, guys, and if you've got any questions, let me know, okay? Good luck.